Hello, everybody. So good night. Thank you for joining us. We'll be starting in a few minutes, so come join us. Uh, we have a different format today. I'm going to talk a little bit in a few minutes. So if you have any question, we have the chat on the YouTube. Uh, we have Twitter if you want to talk or share your tweets about the event tonight. Um, so give me just a few minutes, just waiting for everybody to join us. I see some people joining us, so it's 5:30. So let's give another 2 minutes. Oh yeah, you can see the Twitter account over here. Um, so join us. So it's over here, AI Inclusive on Twitter. We have Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. From now on, we are going to be having all of the videos being live streamed via YouTube, so you don't have to download anything. We'll have some events coming up next month as well. We have one event in Portuguese on September 17th, and probably something going to the San Francisco chapter as well. So join us there so you can keep up to date to all the news. Use the chat, say hi. Let's start the conversation, and we'll start in another minute. All right, website is over here as well. Um, there are a bunch of information over there, all of the social medias and all that. So can you say hi if you join here, if you are watching live? Can you tell us where you are joining from? All right, all right. I see David. I see Michelle. San Jose. Hey, Michelle. I hope everybody's safe. We are having issues all over, I guess, U.S. There is the fires, there is the hurricane, so kind of like crazy times over here. Um, San Francisco Bay Area. Hey, Lisa. San Mateo. Seattle. Cool. Sonoma County. Awesome. So a lot of people from San Francisco Bay Area, California. Vancouver. Awesome. I went to Vancouver 2 years ago. It was pretty beautiful. Oh, Merced, California. Awesome. A few hours from San Francisco, Berkeley. Great. Okay, so I think we should start now. So let's start our event tonight. So if it's your first time over here, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making your time to join us tonight, or in the morning if you are in the other, in Australia, for example. So let's talk a little bit about AI Inclusive. If you don't know what AI Inclusive means. So AI Inclusive is an organization that promotes diversity in the artificial intelligence via meetups in a welcome, safe, and friendly environment. So our mission is to increase the representation and participation of gender minority groups in AI. So we have a code of conduct. Every time we start a meetup, we always emphasize that there is the code of conduct. So we have the code of conduct in our website. There is the English version, there is the Portuguese version, and together we are building a community to make AI more inclusive. So all the social media over here, so take a moment to follow us, to find us on Instagram. We are very much active in all social platforms. And there is an email as well if you're interested in starting a chapter or knowing a little bit more about the organization, connect with us. So this night, unfortunately, we had our speaker had an issue with emergency, so she won't be joining us. So we'll have to wait for her for to be live with us again. So in the next few weeks, or we'll wait for her to see when she's available again. So we are very sad that she's not here with us, but we didn't want to cancel the event tonight. So we put this kind of like together last minute in the last hour and a half. And we were thinking, what could we do in such a short time to get your time and to respect your time, that you reserved to be here with us. So tonight we were able to get some people together. They are our heroes, to be honest. Like, we were messaging them, say, hey, can you join us? This is what happened. Can you talk to us a little bit? And let's share a little bit about your pathways into data science and AI. So we have a very diverse group over here, people from Brazil, people from US. So it's going to be very interesting conversation. If you want to join us, you can as well. Just let us know. If you have questions, again, there is the chat. We are going to be answering questions. So this is like a time for us to talk about, like our journey to data science and AI. So I want to thank you all again for jumping in on this with us. We are so happy to have you here. So we have a set of questions, but if there is any question that you want to ask that we are not asking, just join us on the chat and ask over there, and then I'll be asking the panelists or the people in this group. So why don't we do this for now? So can we start sharing what's your name, your pronouns, and where are you logging from? Where are you based right now? Danielle, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. Thank you so much for having me. I love this community, and I'm really excited to talk and be here. I am in New Orleans. So as you know, there's been a hurricane that's passed through Louisiana. It didn't really hit us, but there has been a lot of, harsh winds and thunder noises. So fortunately, that's all done now. Pronouns: she, her. I am the founder of Dikayo Data and the Data Fem podcast. So I definitely have been inspired by Gabby and everybody's mission to increase inclusivity in the data science world. And I love learning from you all.
Cool. Marina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Marina. I'm from Brazil. I'm in São Paulo now. I am a data science student. I'm trying my best to talk to you guys in English today. And I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marina. It was like last minute. Marina is based in Brazil, in São Paulo. She's been helping us with AI inclusive, with the whole social media. All the good stuff that you see on the social media is Marina behind. So I'm so grateful that she was able to join us. as same as me, English is not our first language. So I also like told her, if there is any word or anything that you don't know how to say in English, just say in Portuguese and I'll try to translate. And I think that was the beauty when I was thinking about what are the people that I could invite last minute that is going to show how diverse our group is. So let's not worry about language. We all can understand. And if there is anything that we cannot understand, I'll help to translate. So let's go, Carla. I think you're muted. I think you're muted, Carla. Yeah, see if you can see the little...
Okay, yes. Oh, sorry. Okay. So my name is Carla, yes, and I'm a chemical engineer, and I'm a professor in Brazil at Federal University of Bahia. And now I am the leader of one big project in Brazil, yes, dealing with work with data science and AI for students, young students of middle and high school students from public universities in Brazil. So yeah, this is it.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. Jana, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I am Jana. My pronouns are she and her. I am based in San Francisco. I will soon be based in Seattle, actually, next month. I am a freelance AI designer and developer. I am currently a member of a collective based here in California called Feminist AI. We focus on feminist and post-human approaches to AI.
Awesome. Thank you again, everybody. So I have a few questions that I want to ask. And, we have like people here in different phases on their career and doing different stuff. But it would be interesting to know, what are you like, what are you doing now? Like, so Jana mentioned that what she's doing now, Carla, but I think Marina, can you talk a little bit? Because like you originally, you are not a data scientist per se, so you are making this transition, right?
Yeah.
So can you just talk a little bit?
I'll try. I used to work in sales, and then I started studying Salesforce development. And then a friend told me about data science, and I tried to learn more about it and kind of fell in love with data science. So I participated in a boot camp lately. I just finished it. And now I am, it's marathon also, Gabriela, the IBM marathon here in Brazil.
Yeah, so there is, I can talk a little bit just to give some context. So is this event by IBM that is happening in Latin America, where every week they have different challenges that you go through, and then every week you can get prizes, and then the top 100 finalists go to Mexico. So they provide you material so you can get into AI. If you don't have background, for example, they provide you a lot of tutorials. So yeah, so that's what Marina is doing right now after the boot camp, right?
Yes, diving into IBM tools for AI and everything, and trying to build a portfolio so I can get my first job in data science. I don't know, helping in AI inclusive, which is very nice. I think it's this.
Thank you. What about you, Danielle? Like, how did you get into this field? Because you also have a very interesting story, and now you are very, you've been talking about AI fairness and ethics and bias as well. There is the hashtag on Twitter, which is the great hashtag ever. So can you talk a little bit about this?
Well, I'm certainly glad that you find my story interesting, because that is a huge compliment. I actually came from a journalism background. So I was really young, writing stories, having a blog, and I majored in journalism at Northwestern. And then after, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I'd always been so entrepreneurial, but I felt like maybe I needed a change. So I applied to MBA, and that's where I started learning stats for the real first time. I had taken stats in undergrad, but nobody in undergrad, it's really hard to pay attention to what's in front of you. And so I'm really happy I got a second chance at Tulane doing my MBA. And so I took the statistics path into data science, which I really do recommend. But then I just kept ending up on the media side of things, because it is a really good intersection, as I'm sure a ton of you know, to be able to do data science, sure, but then also create content about it and pass that on to other people and kind of control where the industry goes in a way, especially as it pertains to who we bring in. So in my content, I focus a lot on people from underrepresented and also marginalized groups in the industry. And I think that it's been a real I've only been doing my company for less than a year, and it's hard to believe that, because I've really learned a lot from merging those two, journalism and the science path, together. And I think it's given me a really fun niche in the industry, where I can learn stories from everybody that's trying to get into the field, and really figuring out where the boundaries are in the industry, so that people have more to know how to go on in the future.
Cool, thank you. Carla, do you want to talk a little bit, because you are from Brazil, you are a professor over there, and now you are in San Diego for a few months. So can you share a little bit about your journey and what are you doing?
Yeah, so yes. In San Diego, I'm a visiting scholar at UCSD, so I'm working with machine learning and developing models. So it's interesting, yes, kind of interesting, because it's an environmental field for water research. But nowadays, I think I'm patient with that project we have in Brazil, so I didn't stop work with them. Like, because of this pandemic, everything is online. So every day we are working with these students and the all team in Brazil. So mainly we have been developing materials based in AI and data science for these students. Last year we were working with only girls from public schools. So we start with around 500 students from 5 schools. So some of them could go to the university, and some of them start to work with science and developing projects and developing games and studying a little bit about data science. So supporting them to develop their analytical thinking and computational thinking also. It was amazing to see those girls just starting to think in a different way. Yes, learning also, and be, I think, passionate for education, because some of them, they are in such a situation that they don't believe in their future, they could have choices. So nowadays they have some of them, they think very high, they want to go to university, they want to get like different jobs, different careers, so it's impressive. And this year, now we start also to work with boys. Yes, so from those schools, even though we are working with fewer students because of this pandemic, these students, they don't have access to technology or even internet or cell phones. So sometimes very hard for them, but we are developing many, I think, different tools to work with them. Some of my the team we have in Brazil, they are here. Kaique is here. I don't know if this meeting, I have seen, I think, other students also here. I'm pleased they are here too. So, and nowadays we introduced AI course in those schools. There are public schools, 5 schools. So, and then they are starting to talk about AI. But the good, I think is they are talking about AI, but to build a better society. So these students, they are so young, but they have such different experience, yes, in life. So they discuss and they think about some problems that sometimes we don't realize they have. So it's very good to see them how they can be creative and they think like, how can I use AI or data science in my community or in the society or in Salvador or in my school or in my life? So we are very impressed. I get always emotional, Gabriela knows, when I talk about this project because it's really special for me and for all team. So we have many, I think, people working as volunteer. Gabrielle is part of this project. I remember last year, we invited Gabriela to talk to our students. Yes, it was, of course, I think we used Skype at that time. We got I think 250 students in a big auditorium. And Gabrielle was supposed to talk with them only for 20 minutes about her career and everything, how he got this position and about, yes, also our ladies and everything. And finally, she ended up to spend like 40 minutes talk to them. It was so good for them. And so that's why we always invite people like Gabriela and others to come and talk to those students and also with teachers. Yes, also there are some teachers on those schools, they don't know, at least they didn't know anything or few things about data science and AI, and now they agreed, yes, to learn more and to teach in their school. So everyone can contribute a little bit in those schools. So I feel I'm very glad, yes, to do that and to have the whole team, a very impressive team of students, graduate students and professors and teachers and the community work with us. So that's why I'm very pleased to be here too with this new initiative, yes, to work and to think differently because we are working with girls and now we're including boys also.
Yeah, this is an awesome project, Carla, and I probably will go back to that. We could spend like an hour talking about this, 2 hours. It's amazing the work that she's been doing in Brazil. It's very like a population or a community that doesn't have any resources at all. Like, you know, if you think like even like computers, internet, they don't have access to technology. So we can come back to this as like some of the initiatives that we are all working on, but because I think that's something that kind of like gets us like, you know, together, is like this passion around changing changing lives. So Jana, do you want to talk a little bit about like how did you get into this area? What is your path?
I always hate saying that I have this unusual special path, because I'm in the Bay Area and people like to say that a lot. But I do have a slightly strange path, I think, into data science. I was an anthropology major and math major in school, and my master's degree is in German. I did endangered language documentation for 3 or 4 years, and then involved a great deal of technology and community approaches. I had an AI job in 2000 with a really old school expert system and heuristics company. So I've seen all these different approaches to AI. I said that one. I worked when I moved to the Bay Area, I worked in a network security company, and we started using Bloom filters. And I'd never really known much about machine learning. I had stats, I had a mathematics background, I knew how to program, I knew how to write web pages. After my daughter was born, I went to a data science boot camp here in San Francisco that has now been merged into a large organization. And then I got very, very lucky, and I got an astoundingly good job with an amazing company and an amazing group of people. And like many startups, it died, sad death. But those that's really what got me into becoming an AI practitioner. And then I joined a large company that had a research and development labs that I joined, and then I joined a design consultancy. I think I constantly have tried to look for better approaches to AI and to natural language processing, which is my, I suppose you'd say, my technical specialty within AI. And I guess I'm actually on Monday, I'm starting my second master's in UX design, because I've become pretty convinced that design approaches to AI are one of the best ways to guarantee inclusivity and ethical approaches to AI. There's some really good papers I've discovered lately about, there was one, it was really funny. Something is scary, farting is cute, but laughing is scary, talking about children's perceptions of AI technology designed for them. And I thought that approach, like talking about designing for children, was a really good idea, because people just design these like weird robot toys for children. And I have a child of my own who I have been at home with for 6 months now. So that's what sort of propelled me into that path I'm in right now.
That's just amazing. And I love to hear like all the different paths, because sometimes people think, we they look at us, and they see like, oh, this person's so successful, this person's doing so great, it's probably their path, it's very linear, they knew already from the very early ages what they wanted to do, right? So, which is the majority of the cases is not true, right? So Danielle, how was your path? Did you always know that you wanted to follow this, or like you were doing something else and then you decide to switch careers, or?
I think I always knew that I wanted to be in charge of something. I definitely love being a founder. I love being entrepreneurial, but sometimes, in this economy, there's just a lot of pressure to take a more traditional route, because we're told that gives us more security, I guess. And there are benefits to that, literal benefits, obviously, healthcare benefits to working at a large company. There's so many reasons to do that. So I definitely always keep that as an open option. But for me, I think I just really like engaging with other people on my terms, so I love doing interviews. I love putting together content about other people, and just having a spot where people can come and search for that content. So I always knew that. I wanted to be a hub for something, but I didn't know it would be data scientists like until very recently. And I got a lot of jobs. I got a lot of data science jobs working for the New Orleans Police Department one summer in between my school years of MBA. And then I also did a lot of research as a graduate assistant for multiple professors during school. So I kind of sped up the practitioner process so that I try to understand what, my high level guests on the podcast are telling me. But I'm definitely still learning and picking up all these skills from different platforms, Tableau, Python. I'm the most experienced in R, but still learning. So it's kind of, I feel like the general gist of what I wanted to do is just to be in charge and kind of create my own enterprise. And that I did, but I didn't know data science. So that's the story.
Anyone else want to share here?
Can I?
Sure, absolutely.
Can I talk about the boot camp I shared today on my LinkedIn, because I received the certificate today of the boot camp, and I find about it on LinkedIn too, because someone in my network shared the boot camp, and this is how I found it. So I think it's very important to try to know more people on the field you want to start your career, because they are always sharing interesting things, and you can find opportunities and insights. Oops.
Yeah, so talking about boot camp, so Jenna, how did you find out about the boot camp? Were you looking for something, or like maybe an ad came up and then you were like, oh yeah, I should do this?
I was doing some stats and things on my own, but a friend of mine, like this boot camp, I mean, talk about inclusivity, their very first class was a bunch of guys and one person who identified as female, who is an old friend of mine. She worked at that strange AI company in Austin, like I did. And she was like, oh, you're doing this, you should do this. And, I think that the boot camp realized very quickly they probably needed to have more people, like more software engineer guys in. So there were 4 females in the one I was in. And I think we've all gone to do work in AI and product management. So it was a better experience, I think, that I had than my friend had.
Cool. I think we have one question over here from David Leap. You all have very different paths. Let's see. Can I show over here? Yes, I can. So this is the question. So you all have very different paths, mostly not what is thought of as the norm. Have you found your different path to be a major hurdle?
I can start this one. I think that because the industry is growing itself, not really, but I do think the challenge is finding space for everybody, because, there are a lot of us in data science comparatively to what it feels like sometimes. It's a bigger industry than but, if you are one of the people speaking out a lot, it is definitely difficult to find what your niche is. And I think having a path, we all come from paths before data science. I think everybody does, for the most part, because I just kind of left my academic career temporarily, and I feel like I still have things I did beforehand. So, I hear about geologists, biologists, astronomers, all of these people who came from a different background. And I think that really gives you an idea of where you're going to fit in the industry. And that's important because everybody's trying to fit in the industry. So I'm not saying that, if you're a journalist like me, you have to write about AI and you can't be a practitioner or do something totally different. Of course you can, but at least for me, it does organize kind of where my real strength is, and as I learn about AI, where I can contribute the most, if that makes sense.
And I'll follow up with a question. So what are the skills that you had in a prior career that helped you in this role to get to where you are? And that's a good question, because even like myself, when I think around, my career path and the things that I did, I always say that there is not one thing that you did in the past that is not going to help you in the future, even though you think that it's I'm wasting time doing this stuff. I think when we are young, or we think like this, but now when I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, that thing that I did 10, 15 years ago, when I was producing music, it helped me to be a better communicator right now, right? So do you have something that you could share with us, that something that you had no idea that could help to form or to shape the person that you are today? You can all jump in. I don't need to ask, so let's all jump in, whoever wants to speak.
So, okay, I can start. So in my case, when I started to work with AI, it was about 20 years ago, or more than 20 years ago, when I started master degree. So I didn't plan. I didn't have any background in modeling or statistics. In fact, I didn't know why I was studying statistics in engineering field. So I was like, why I'm studying that? And then I just went to this master, and this professor just invited me. Okay, do you want to do research with me? I want to apply AI for a big company, pulp and paper company. And I said, oh no. And he had a fellowship, a scholarship, and I needed that. It's okay. I should start studying. And that time, we just had papers. Yes, we didn't have much thing on internet. So we had to get papers in libraries and books and study everything. So it was kind of hard, yes, to start, because since for the beginning, no one nowadays just starting from books. They just read something, they just, I think, watch a video, a 5 minutes video. It says, okay, it's something I want to start or not. But for us, it was kind of difficult at that time. But at the same time, you could like go deeper in any, I think, maybe I would say measure. You could study more, I think, and be more concentrated. So it helped me to learn, I think, more about AI. And at that time, we didn't talk about data science. At least I never heard about it before. 20 years ago, it was statistics. And I got so impressed how we could join statistics, because at that time it was kind of separated. Or you are studying AI or you study statistics. You cannot do both. You have to choose. And my PhD thesis was about that. Can we join both? Can you do statistics when it's better, when it's not better? And so it helped me. This path helped me to think that we have to be dedicated to study something, even though we don't know exactly we are going to use later. So to be a good student, it's not good to do good grades, but to be passionate to study something and to learn more and deeper, it will help you someday. That it helped me after, like, everything I did after. And nowadays it's kind of a challenge to think all this kind of machine learning and AI and data science, but how can you explain it for a kid, for someone that's 12 years old? So it's another kind of challenge now. But it helped me to study like deeply, and now I can, yes, figure out what to do now in this kind of situation.
Jana, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot, I mean, because of all, if you talk about all the different kinds of skills and things that make up AI, you know, data science can be a lot of things. I mean, data science maybe is more focused. I don't do A/B testing. I personally find it so boring, to be honest. I know some people really like it and it's a very necessary thing, but I absolutely hate it. But if you asked me to go through a bunch of language data and classify it, I would do it in a heartbeat because I love doing that. But I'm a linguist. I'm a trained linguist. I'm a trained anthropologist. I know how to do these things. I know how to look for cultural patterns. So I think the way that a diversity in AI really, I notice one thing that I find problematic somewhat in the Bay Area is people are like, we want someone who has a PhD in astronomy or physics. And I'm like, you don't need a PhD in astronomy or physics to be a good data scientist. I'm like, the speaker you were supposed to have tonight, she did Adele did marketing, and she's a phenomenal data scientist. Actually, I was really very honored to be asked to kind of sub for her. It was like being asked to do a guitar solo once Prince had to bow out or something, because she's fantastic. I think she's one of the most phenomenal people I've met in a long time. But, you know, she came from marketing. I came from endangered language documentation. That's pretty strange and random. You know, I have friends who have computer science backgrounds who are data scientists in AI, you know, friends who came from CogSci. I've known people who worked in AI who came from botany, who had a master's in botany. Because there's so many different aspects to what data science and AI are. And I think also people who come from more social sciences is actually a strength that should be embraced, because those people know how to do probably broader based approaches than someone with a CS degree. I'm not saying the CS degree is invaluable, a lot of it's software engineering, and that's also important, but we tend to forget the soft skills. We call them soft skills. Why do we call them soft skills? They're just as important, they're just as hard, they take as much training as learning to write a piece of software.
So let me talk about what I think it's my best thing that I can add to data science. I am very good communicating in Portuguese, I swear. So this, I think it's my best strength, it's relationship. I worked as sales rep like for 15 years. And I think sometimes it's hard for people, presenting their work in data science, and you need to make yourself clear and have patience to explain everything. This I think it's my strength, and it came from my last career. Is it clear?
Yeah, clear, perfect. Yeah, so I see a lot of like linguists sharing, like saying, "Oh, I'm a linguist" here in the chat, Jana. So a lot of people agreed with everything that you were saying. Andrea, I think that's how. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Saying that they are a linguist. And it's a good point for us to emphasize, like, you don't have to have a CS degree, or it's so interesting to see. And I think that's one of the richest thing in the data science is like we have people from all these different backgrounds, right? And coming together to work together. And as a follow-up question, like data science is still a new career if you think about other careers that has been around for so many years. So how do you think the field is evolving now? So what are some of the new roles that you've seen coming up in this data field? And this can be to anyone, like you can all answer the question.
I think that there's a lot of new roles in security, like bringing lawyers in, for example. I've seen a lot of increasing there, because for a while, we were just trying to define what a data practitioner is, and I'm still trying to define that. But then nowadays, I see a lot of intersections between cybersecurity and data science, and also data journalism is a big deal. There are a lot of data journalists who call themselves that name. And these people are on the front lines trying to interpret our COVID data and then report back what they found to other people in a very stressful situation. So I think there's just a lot more roles coming together as the field develops in terms of how we can protect ourselves, how we can communicate to the general public, things like that.
Yeah, and one thing I'm going to add this because that's the way I see as well. And I think we'll have more like specialized roles within the data science career. Like the same thing as we have with software engineer, where you have someone that is more specialized in the front end, someone that's more specialized in the back end, in a very particular framework. And in another way, I think data science, the data science team is going to be it's going to be with people from not only like different backgrounds, but usually it's a different background, but then you have to do a boot camp to become a data scientist. But the way I see in the future is also like we are going to have like philosophers, psychologists, where they are going to bring this view of like ethics and bias, right? And to think about the discrimination and all that. So does anyone want to share a little bit about this? But this is like what I've been seeing as a trend.
So I would say something, but more related with some, I think, the group I'm working with. For some, I think, couple of years ago, I think our students engineering, no one would think about to go to data science because they didn't know what's that, what this profession is that, what I'm going to do. And nowadays, we have more and more students that want to work with statistics, and also they are required also in the companies to learn or to know something. Yes, not only program, but to deal with data. And I think this is something very good because it doesn't mean that they don't need, at least for our students, they don't want to apply data science or AI only for their work or the engineering work. They want to apply it for some personal project. Like, it's so good to see the students work with different kinds of subjects, but not only for working, but maybe for expressing themselves in some way. So I think something new also would be like if more people is working or could work with data science and AI, it would need to be just as professional, but to be for their life somehow by curiosity or something like that. That's what I'm thinking, and I can see in our students, and this is kind of new for the past few years.
I think also it's just interesting that, you know, you can ask somebody about coding and they'll freak out and feel very insecure about it and say they don't know how to code. But if you ask somebody about data, I feel like most people have a lot of views on data and its interaction in their lives. I mean, you know, when people hear data about their specific racial group or their gender or COVID stats in where they live, it becomes personal, and people really do want to know about the data. They want to talk about the data, no matter where they come from, no matter what their educational background. I've seen it, that it's true. So in that case, you know, it's really about making the jump from how you want to talk about the data and have it in your daily life to, do you want to practice and manipulate the data? Like, there's data literacy, which I think can be done if you're not a data practitioner, and should be done. And not everybody's going to be building the most complex of models, but they can be educated in what to look out for, you know, how charts lie, for example, Alberto Cairo, you know, that's something everybody should know. Or, you know, definitely everything Sophia Noble says, Algorithms of Oppression, the book she wrote. I mean, that's really important for everybody to hear about. And it's not something that's all coding heavy and will go over people's heads. So I think that this is a conversation that everyone can and should be having, because, you know, I see somebody in the YouTube chat said that data science will become a subject like math and that everyone will need to know the basics. So talking about the ethics now before we get to that point could be really instrumental.
I think the idea of data literacy is really important. I've seen, so the group I work with, they have a reading group on algorithms of oppression right now, and we're talking about having these groups get together and make, you know, creative coding projects or critical pieces about how AI, you know, impacts people in their daily lives. I mean, there's been journalism pieces on this. You know, the work of Joy Bowen-Mullaney and Sasha Costanza-Schock out of MIT has highlighted a lot of this work. Just yesterday, I went to this online event. It was very cute. It's called the AI Human Training Center. And the idea of you were in a Zoom with several other people. And the idea was that you learned how the AI perceived different facial expressions. So you could make the AI think you were angry if you went like this, or if you smiled really big, or you looked shocked. It was actually a lot of fun. But I think the point of all of these is that because these algorithms are already so pervasive in our life, I mean, they determine whether we get a loan, they determine if people go to jail, they determine if people get bail. You know, they in England, they determined whether people went to university or not, because they had an AI grade people's A levels, which is what allows you to go to university in Britain. And so the fact that this isn't just a whole field of study that you need to know to do your job. This is a field of study you need to understand to survive going forward, especially in a world where companies are putting profit over people, which is very normal. I hope that changes, but that's not going to change overnight. And I think, you know, governments, especially governments that tend to be a little more totalitarian in their approaches, are going to use things like facial recognition technology to crack down on us. And we need to figure out how to, you know, survive in those ways, to both work against the AI. I mean, the AIs will adapt, they'll get more data, people will tweak the models, but we also have to think about, I mean, that's for the tech policy. We didn't even talk about policy as part of AI. And that doesn't even involve coding half the time. That involves writing regulations and policy. And that's another interesting take on data science and AI.
Yeah, changing gears a little bit, and I think, Jenna, what you point out, it's very important. You know, we should have more discussions around this. I don't think a lot of people are aware of like everything that is happening, or like where AI is being used and how AI is making people's life worse, right? But changing gears a little bit, I want to talk about something that came up where people say, you know, you are so lonely in this field. Sometimes you are the only, you know, person of color, or women, or gender minorities, or underrepresented, someone from an underrepresented community. How do you go about like finding mentors? Do you have mentors? Do you have like a support network? Can you talk a little bit about this, and what is the importance of having these communities for you?
I think as an Our Lady, you've made Our Ladies so big and so powerful that you can't really be not empowered to get involved. I mean, right before COVID happened, I had the pleasure of attending our studio conference in Sen, and just to see that Our Lady's energy in person, and that wasn't even all the ladies, is what Gabby said. I said, "Oh, look, all your ladies are here." She said, "That's not all my ladies." So I think it's just making ourselves really unavoidable in terms of our conversations and the things that we schedule and the things that we do. I mean, Our Ladies alone runs on tons of organized people just wanting to give their time and their energy to empowering the next generation and the current generation of data science. And I think something that Ayodele is amazing at is she's just always talking on Twitter, even when she's tired, even when, you know, she wants to take, she's always telling people relentlessly, like, that we are important as women of color and that the things that we say matter. And eventually, you know, I mean, I hate when I see people do giving women of color and women, you know, anyone marginalized group a lot of flack for saying what we feel. And especially, how dare we speak on a topic like AI when we don't look like the people who've, you know, traditionally been in charge. But I guess I've seen it start to change, at least in the environments that I'm in. People kind of feel compelled to listen because of the things that you all have created and done. So, I mean, really just speaking up and not going away, I think really does battle imposter syndrome, even though it can also come with a lot of flack and a lot of painful emotions that we have to fight through, but it's worth it. So that next time, we get a little stronger, and then the next person comes in, and it is like having a girl gang is what we all say when a group of us within the larger umbrella of Our Ladies, we get together. It really does feel like having, a female power squad. It really does.
So other than like communities, is there like you have mentors? And if you do, how did you find them? I know it's a tricky question, and like some of us don't have, but it's a question that comes up every now and then, especially when you are starting the field, right? So you not having someone to guide you is so hard, because it's so hard to get into this field as well, right? And to feel lonely and alone. Anyone want to share if they have mentors? How did you find them? Marina, do you want to go?
I would say the best thing that happened to me was finding local communities. And this is how I met you, for example, Gabriela, and Carla, also in the Weed Salvador. I met both of you. And I don't think I have a mentor, but a whole community, that share experiences, and it helps me to make my decisions and finding the next path, I guess.
Yeah, and Danielle mentioned something about imposter syndrome, and we talk about this over and over and over again. And I think it's good for us to talk over and over and over again, because it's still I don't think it goes away. Maybe it goes like a little bit smaller, and then it gets bigger again, and then but never goes away. So like, do you have any tips or anything that you did to overcome, or at least to decrease this, instead of like being with you all the time, just to be with you sometimes?
I think the work speaks for itself, which is kind of, it sounds easy and simple, but it's actually really not. Like, I've been cut down in environments that were supposed to be supported towards underrepresented groups. And me, as somebody who is underrepresented, was not treated very well. And that's kind of where my company came from the ashes of that. So, I mean, any tips of what I've learned from leaving a traumatic situation to starting a business where I can kind of control more, but not all of how I'm treated, definitely more. I would say just whatever situation you're in, your work will speak for you. And, maybe you'll have to overcome more barriers, work a little harder to get to the same level. Maybe you will, but and I'm not saying, like, I've done good work and not been treated well because of another facet of who I am, for sure. But I think it really helps to stick on that and focus on the work, because, I mean, at least that's what I try to do when I'm talking to people on DataFem, is talk about their work. Because, it's really important to talk about imposter syndrome and improving the environment for us. But it's also important to show the rest of the world everything we can do in AI that they can't do, So I think it's important to have those internal conversations to strengthen us, within the local communities that we're in, but then to also go out in the world and just show our work and, show exactly what we can do, and that it doesn't really matter that it comes from a woman. Maybe it does matter that comes from a woman. Maybe that makes it better. But yeah, it's that having your internal community strengthen you so that you can feed all that positive energy back outwards.
I mean, I would say, I think there are two things in my personal experience I can think about. One of which was today. I was at the Women in AI Ethics conference earlier today, and they and Mia and folks at Lighthouse 3 put together a fantastic event. And they had a piece on working mothers in AI. And I thought to myself, about a few years ago, I felt like I was about to have a breakdown. Because I'm a single mother. I live in the most expensive city in the world, and I had a job where I was just constantly getting slammed for the fact I was home all the time with a sick child, or that I had to go because I had to go pick up my child from her after school program, and she was having a lot of trouble at school. And my boss was freaking horrible to me. He called my daughter a petri dish. And I couldn't believe that happened. I mean, I think I was just so in the moment. I was so shocked and I cried all the time. And today I realized, like, no, I wasn't actually bad at my job, because I felt like I was bad at my job. And I wasn't. I was just in a bad situation where my company at the time did not make space for that. In fact, they pressured me against my very basic, most important responsibility to my child. But that's one side of it. The second side is I remember reading once about this thing with imposter syndrome. I remember once I read that some guys will apply for a job if they're like meet 60 or 70% of the qualifications, whereas someone who's female tends to only do it if they meet every single thing. And so I think that tends to push, people who are female identified to not advance in their careers, because they get jobs that are like way too easy for them because they meet everything. Whereas guys just seem to have this hubris. So it's like, well, I can figure out the rest. And once I saw that and it kind of sunk in, I was just like, well, if I have 60 or 70% of these things, like, okay, no, I don't know this particular Python library. I can learn a Python library in 2 days. Why am I not as smart as some guy who's way overconfident and probably has less qualifications than I do to apply for this job?
Yeah, while you're saying that, I was, this is so common, so common. I went through a similar situation in a previous job where I burned out and I took 6 months off. Luckily, I was able to do it. So I quit my job, took 6 months off, but it was the same thing. So I think one message that we can, share with other folks is there is always a better job out there. I'm sorry, but there is always. Like, if you feel like this is the norm now, this is not the norm. Maybe it's going to take you a little while to find another job, because that's just the way things are. But don't stay. Don't stay under that situation. It's awful, right? So you are going to find something much better out there. So don't be on that situation if you can. Of course, sometimes like there is no other option. You cannot, take the time to be without job, right? But like if you can, if you have support, of course, do it. So we have a question in the chat from Will R. And I think it's also like a good question. So for those working at adjacent to the AI data science, what would be a good starting point to get into the field? Going back to school, is the answer here, or doing something else?
I made the same question when I started, and I received the answer: no, don't go back to school, because you will waste a lot of time. You're graduated and you just need to learn the skills you need to become a data scientist. So there are a lot of courses online. I think you can learn what you need to learn, like the tech skills. And also has a lot of people who shares their path, and it can inspire you in some way.
Yeah, Carla, do you, like, you as a professor, right? And so like, let's say you have a student and they come to you and ask you, what's usually your like advice or suggestion for them? Like you say, oh, let come and do a PhD, or or no, there are these other resources, other places that you can go to. You also should consider that as well.
We have different, I think, students in Brazil. Most of them, they don't want to go to master or PhD, of course. Sometimes they say it would be crazy to start, yes, to continue studying after all engineering course. I'm not going to continue that. But anyway, I think when they start to study statistics, because I'm teaching statistics for engineering, no one wants to do that. It's they have to because it's the curriculum. They don't want to do that. But they have this, I think the first, yes, contact with statistics, but in a different way, because we use coding and we use real problems, not only engineering problems, but also problems for the society to work with them. So when they come to talk to me, some of them, they want, yes, they like coding and they just want to learn more. And some of them, they are required for job interviews to know something about data science. So we start to do that. And then I tell them, of course, like Marina told, there are many courses online. I don't think they should go, they must go to master or PhD to learn data science. Of course they don't. But I think it's a challenge to choose which course, which book, or which text to go. Yeah, so it's so difficult for them. So what we try to do is to have somehow something that they could start. So which book is good for the starters, or if you are not on the math field, or you can do something different. So, and some of them, they want to go to master and PhD. So it's different. They have other, yes, objectives for their lives. So it's very hard, but the beginning, I think, is for the beginning, they don't know how important is to learn data science. I think to have this kind of, I think, skills. How can I learn more about data? So for the beginning, I think the first part to do many like seminars to get people involved. Yes. And sometimes you don't need to learn more. You just need to understand a little bit, and someone next to you, to your job, you do the work, but you have to learn something to be able to talk to them. So that's why I think you don't need to go to master. I think are going to master. And also, if you are very young, as we are now, yes, work with these young students. It's so nice, so good to see that they can do that. They can learn even though they don't have even material in Portuguese, because in English you have such many kind of resource for start learning, but in Portuguese it's kind of a challenge to start sometimes. So maybe start to study English also, so you would have more resources to study.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. We've been over an hour talking about data science, AI, and sharing our own experience, which has been very validating and great for people. People are like literally saying, thank you for sharing your own experience. Thank you for sharing resources. So, but we have one question here. So before I'll have this question and probably another one or two, and then we are going to wrap up. But let me just share the question that Alexandra is sharing with us. So the question is, you all are amazing and motivating women. What did you do to learn the skills needed to be in the AI data science role? So what did you do to learn the skills that you are using today in your role, in your job?
I'll go, even though I probably don't have the most skills.
Of course you do.
It kind of goes back to an earlier question I was in school, you know, and that's not something everybody gets, or that's not something that everybody needs. You know, most of my friends who are at the same or higher level of data science than I am were not learning statistics or R or Python in school. We were kind of the first year that Tulane offered an algorithms concentration, and I just kind of jumped on it when I realized I liked stats. But what did happen is that when I started learning R, I felt a lot of pressure in school to be good at it because I wanted to. And I had a panic attack and walked out on my midterm and had to come back and take it later. I think I mean, I have anxiety, but I think that this particular situation, I just didn't feel like I had learned the commands, even though I had studied, like I hadn't learned why the commands work. And so that summer, I spent a lot of time doing tutorials, working with Plotly, starting with data visualization, because that's an easy way to results really can make something pretty that makes you want to keep going. So I did that. And then when I came back to that class the next semester, I was top of the class because I had taken that time by myself to really spend time and understand on my own. So it was a hybrid approach for me because I don't think I would have gotten the motivation without being in school, but a lot of people have the motivation without being in school. If you are in school, definitely major in analytics, or, you know, even if you don't major, take a lot of classes, because it's a really awesome opportunity to have that backing and, you know, kind of collaborate with people, have professors you can research with, etc. But I feel like there's so many online resources out there, bloggers, W3 Schools was really good for SQL for me. So, you know, there's a lot of resources to teach yourself, and YouTube videos, like y'all all on YouTube. Like Julia Silge's YouTube videos really help me out when there's something I'm just not getting from reading. So.
Anyone else have resources that you could share with our audience on data science, general data science or AI, anything that you find useful?
I'll type a few sites in the chat, okay? Now I'm taking the Code Academy path on data science, but I did other ones too, and I think I can type in the chat. I think it's better.
And Carla, do you have anything in Portuguese or anything that because I know that you've been investigating and writing a lot of materials, anything that you want to share with us if English is not their first language, for example, and is Portuguese?
Sure, that's what I was getting here. We have a website with materials for teachers and also for students, for beginners. Maybe if you are already a professional, maybe you think that's too, I think, initial for you, but I think it might help. Also, some videos, it's very nice. And also we have some nice, very good materials about, I would say, protagonism. Girls, I would say protagonismo feminino. I don't know how to say that in English, but so we have this field to work with women. So our students start to study about the beautiful and the most amazing women that change society or change the world or something like that. So they are studying more about those women. So we have some material about them also that could support you if you want to study a little bit more about those kind of fields also. So I joined this. So I will put this in the chat. I don't know, can I put it here? It's okay. I put this here so it might help. And also, I don't know if I can say that every Wednesday, we have a meeting to start to work with some kind of subjects related to data science and AI. So if you are interested, it's open, it's an online meeting. So it's open if you want to join us. So I will put here the website, so with all those information. And I have to say, I told Gabrielle, I have to say goodbye for you tonight. I wouldn't like to do that, but I really have to go. I have an appointment. So it was such a pleasure to be here. I don't know if I deserve to be here. Yes, among these impressive women. But I'm very glad I was invited and very happy. Thank you so much, Gabriela, and all of you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla, for joining us. It was a awesome conversation. It's a great pleasure. I hope we can have you again. Carla is starting the AI Inclusive Salvador in Brazil chapter. So next month we are going to do another event together. So if you want to follow Carla, there is a Twitter handle that she shared with us. We'll share other contacts. She's on Instagram, and there is the website for her project. We are going to share that in a few minutes on the YouTube chat. But before we go, can you share, where can we find you? Where, if people want to follow you, follow your work, get to know a little bit more about your work, where they can find you? So Danielle, Marina, yeah, any, go for it.
Okay, you can find me on LinkedIn. I think it's the best place, and on Twitter too. I shared my username. It's good.
Sorry, I didn't know if you were asking Carla or everyone. So yes, you can find me on Twitter. I am always 100% there. Gabby can tell you that. So that's my Twitter. Also, dicayodata.com. So this address, but just com, has all of the podcasts, the DataFem podcasts, and all of the articles. So I would love to hear from you. And my email is dicayo@dicayodata.com. So there's definitely a theme there. And also just about Portuguese, I know that my friend Gustavo is doing a lot of translation work with Hadley on like some of his books. So I can try to get a hold of him and maybe hook you guys up, because I think there is some work being done in translation, but it just takes a long time because people have other things to do. But I've definitely heard about a move towards that. So hopefully we can get a lot of people involved and speed it up.
Cool. Jana?
Yeah, so there's my Twitter. That is actually my main communication with the public world. So I tend to be actually quite private. So I don't, today has been prolific for me on Twitter. Some days I don't publish anything, write anything at all. If you go to feminist.ai, that is the collective I'm a part of, and you can see our current projects and some past work, some ongoing work there. I've been meaning to put together a portfolio site. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you look me up, it's Luxia, Luxia. And I posted a couple of things for them to share for my favorite resources. The Open Data Science Masters is a great site. It's been around for a while. And IBM just put together a curriculum kit a few months ago called the Open Data Science for All. It's actually meant to be used as for curriculum for university level coursework. So I highly recommend both of those as great general resources for doing the whole slew of all the skills you need in data science.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. It's in the very last minute. I want to invite B and Stacy, because if it was not because of them, we would not be here tonight. So I want to, yes, thank you very much. So they are also the organizers of this San Francisco chapter. So they were in the back helping with everything, all the panelists, like all the logistics, the technical details. So thank you very much. So if you want to join us, for next events, we have pretty much almost every month. There is a gap in the first semester of the year because with the whole pandemic, we were like, oh, are we going back? Are we going not back? Are we online? Are we going to the normal? So everything was on hold for a while, but now it looks like it's going to be a little bit longer before we are able to get back and meet up again in person. So we are going to be doing this every month. We'll probably have something next month. So either join us on the meetup.com, follow us on Twitter, YouTube. You can subscribe. So every time there is something new, any new content, you are going to get notified. And that's it. Thank you again. Thank you very much. I hope to see you next time.